morning. Today we are going to use Jamboard to create a flow map, and we are going to start planning our first blog post. So we've done some flow maps this year, and I know a lot of you are familiar with them, but I want to do a refresher because for our last flow map, I noticed a lot of you were pretty much writing out your entire story, which is not what you want to do. So the purpose of a flow map is to sequence our ideas before we write. But they're just that, ideas, notes and phrases. Nothing more. There should be no complete sentences on your flow map, okay? So I'm going to try using Jamboard today because I think it kind of works well as a flow map style. If you want to continue to do yours in Notability, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So I'm going to tell the story of my most memorable meal. That's going to be my first blog post, okay? And before I sit down to actually create my flow map, I'm obviously doing some thinking about what my most memorable meal is and how I want to tell this story. So my most memorable meal was in 2017, and my husband and I took a trip to Cape Town, South Africa. So I'm going to write that, and I'm going to save my note right there. I'm going to drag it down. And it was sort of like our honeymoon. We had gone to Cabo before that, but we really wanted to go to South Africa, and we wanted to wait until Christmas time when the weather was really great. So it was our honeymoon, and we planned it with actually a travel agency, which I'd never used before, but it was really the way to go for this situation. So that's going to be like my little detail below my main point, and I'm going to take my pen and just draw a little line. All right, so in 2017, my husband and I went to Cape Town, South Africa, and my most memorable meal was at this restaurant called Gold, and it was incredible. So it was basically traditional South African food and entertainment. It wasn't just a meal. And those are the things that I want to really highlight in my post. So again, I'm just putting my little details below, drawing my lines. So the restaurant was called Gold. And the cool thing was when we arrived at this restaurant, just everything that was going on. So I want to spend some time in my post talking about that because it wasn't just like a normal restaurant where you walk in and sit down and start eating. So they had all sorts of entertainment. They had these Mali puppets, which I'll talk about more in depth in my actual post. They also had some praise singing going on. And when we were seated, they also did some face painting at our table. And so they painted both my face and my husband's face. And I will include the photo of that on my flow map as well, because I want to remember to include that. So there's all sorts of cool entertainment. Now, when I go to write my actual post, I'm not going to list those things as like 3 little bullet points, right? But when I'm planning it out, that's all I need. I just want to remind myself what I want to talk about. So then we're going to get to the main focus, which was the food. And the food was incredible. And unlike really any meal I'd ever had before. The cool thing about it was, I'll never forget, they called the menu a 14-course taste safari. And I love that they used that metaphor because we had actually gone on a safari a couple days before. And it's sort of this metaphor for taking you, just like on a safari where you're going through and seeing the animals in the land. In this way, you're traveling, quote unquote, and tasting all these different foods from different parts of South Africa. So they called it this 14-course taste safari. And they basically, you don't order anything. You sit down and then all of the food is brought to you family style. So whether you kind of want it or not, I mean, I guess you could ask if you didn't want something, but everything sort of just starts arriving to your table. So that's another little detail about this that I want to put right here. But I want to get into some detail about the food. So maybe I'll just call this one like highlights. Because this is where I'm going to use a lot of my sensory details. This is where I'm going to use my vivid language to describe the taste and the smells and the sounds and all that kind of stuff. So some of the things that I remember that were amazing, they served these little pot breads, which were like super moist on the inside, but really crisp on the outside. They were baked in a pot on like an open fire. They also served, and I'll never forget this because my husband loves wings. They served these Mozambique chili. Why is that not being spelled right? Chicken wings. What's the spelling of this that I'm missing here? That's like the country. That's not right. Oh, I think it's with an I. Duh. Yeah. I think so. But they were super spicy. I'll have to check the spelling on that. We also had these South African lamb and springbok samosas. And I never had springbok before. They were delicious. And we had pumpkin fritters for dessert, I remember. So those are some of the things that I want to talk about. Now, I'm going to go into great detail and I'm going to include a photo, but those are like the main things I'm gonna want to mention. The other really cool thing is during the meal, you're not just sitting there eating. So there's a lot of like entertainment going on. So I'm going to put that down here. So while we're eating, there was a ton going on. There was dancing to what they call the rhythms of the marimba. And I'll go into detail of this. The percussion, drums. And they invited my husband and I to dance, which was really fun. And so I'll kind of talk about that as well. And it was like a whole performance. So you're basically eating while this is going on. Let me make this a little smaller so we can see it. And to wrap up my post, I want to kind of talk about why this was so memorable and why I would recommend so many people take this trip. And I'm just going to kind of summarize those points here. But it was it was for sure the most memorable meal of my life, but it was such an awesome moment to experience something so unique and to also get to spend this time with my husband. And I would really highly recommend this trip for anyone who's looking for, obviously after the COVID world. Okay, so that is pretty much my flow map. Now that is not my entire story, right? My story is gonna obviously have to be detailed and much longer, but this helps me to sit down and write it. Now, what else I might want to do is maybe think about some of the transition words I want to use. And I might not know all of them right now, but I love the word ultimately for a conclusion. Maybe I'll use that one here. But again, I might change my mind. I might want to start with like a time order one here. I might say something like in 2017 to kind of show some time. And maybe for here, for the entertainment, I might want to say something like during the meal. Again, all of these might change, okay? But when you're done, your flow map should look something like this. So there's notes and phrases, there's no complete sentences. You've really brainstormed what you're gonna write to help just get your thoughts on paper before you start writing. So when you're finished watching this video, you can either create your flow map in Jamboard. I actually really love doing it in Jamboard. It's a lot easier. Or you can create it in Notability. But you are gonna start planning out your first blog post. Please check out the directions that are also linked on the station slides.